This one didn't work for me. That tells you a lot. I'm angry about it. We proceed into the shebanging, and he's greasy. They use his feet. Wrap up time, y'all. I had a crap month. Okay, I'm gonna be straight. We're just gonna jump right into it. This wrap up technically is for the one where I did that TBR video where I went in blind. I didn't know nothing about the book because I have a tendency, if I read a synopsis or honestly even just a sentence, I somehow come up with my own storyline and then I have all these expectations and I have a tendency not to get very high ranked books. Okay? So the thought process last month for April was I'm gonna choose books based off of a sick ass cover and a cool title. And I thought that would work. And I really genuinely thought that if I didn't have expectations, I'd like books better. But it was kind of a bust. If I'm being honest, you guys, it was kind of a big bust. There's really none to write home about. Technically was supposed to read 5. I DNF'd 3. That tells you a lot. I wasn't even like super far in on most of them. The 2 other books, one I really didn't like, and the other one's kind of just mediocre. Cool world. The writing wasn't bad, but it's nothing to write home about. I will say the 2 little smutty reads that we read for Weird Ass Romance Book Club, those were good. April and I had fun with those. So those will be the light at the end of the tunnel that I'll talk about at the end and completely spoil for you guys. But the first 5, the first one I'll go over actually is one that I did know about because it was just a book that I wanted to read this year. And I've told you guys a lot about, and that's Awoke, which I really thought was going to be good. I really, really did. And honestly, okay, wait, hold on. I'm not being fair here. The writing seemed good. Okay, my problem, my big issue is that it's totally young adult. And I went back and I looked at the page for it on Amazon, and there's actually 2 marketing pages. There's one where it claims it as a new adult and one where it claims it as a young adult. I must have clicked on the new adult. I can fully fledged tell you it's young adult. They're basically coming out of their summer of high school and going into their fall of college. And there's just things that they're saying that just sounds so incredibly teenagery that it just irks me. I just don't like reading those types of books. But if you are a young adult individual, this is the one that's like Sailor Moon and Grim Reapers and all that jazz. And the synopsis was written well, and the beginning chapters were also written well, but it just wasn't for me. So I'm gonna say that. I'm a little bummed by it, but it is what it is. The next one that I DNF'd was, let's see, which one do we want to go over? We'll go over this one. This was technically the first book I actually read in the month. This was the Lycan one, which I was excited for because I haven't read a good werewolf one. So if you guys have any like recommendations on a good werewolf one, let me know, because I haven't read just like a werewolf only one. It's usually been like a paranormal with a bunch of different creatures. So I need Rex, man, because I really want to get into the werewolf vibe again. But this one, I loved the cover, and it talked about Lycan, so I'm like, okay, they're using the word Lycan instead of werewolf. I like it. I'm digging this. But the writing's not there. I'm gonna be straight. I had to DNF. It was just kind of one of those situations where you're reading through the sentences and you're slogged down by all the extra fluff, and it's almost like it was trying to come across as like really poetic through everything. So there's certain things where you can just tell your reader, you don't need to show them, right? But everything was being shown. Like, we're getting really poetic with like the descriptions of the people, poetic of like your surroundings, how they're dealing with one another. So it was just difficult to digest, and it just kind of hurt. But I will say this was the author's like debut novel, and she actually puts a note in the beginning that she wrote this basically as a response to kind of heal herself with some traumas that she has personally gone through. So I don't think she wrote this with the intent per se of just trying to make this like a super enjoyable story. And I'm not saying that it can't be. It was just difficult for me because I don't like that type of writing style. But the reason why I'm saying that is if I don't like a book, I'm never trying to like shit on an author, because honestly, if you write a book in general, holy hell cow, I would love to, but I'm struggling with it. So I recognize that it's exceptionally hard. But I just wanted to put that note in there that she does tell you as a reader in the beginning that she wrote this as basically a response to the trauma that she's gone through. So I'm glad that she was able to do that and that helped her. That's amazing. As far as the plot line goes, if y'all are interested, I'll be honest, I didn't go back and read the synopsis, but what I gathered from the like 20% that I read is we have a girl who she's about to discover her wolf. So you basically live as a human up until you're like 18 roughly. And she goes through the ceremony, she's with all of her girlfriends, and her wolf comes out, she gets to meet her, she has this new life, and it's great. But as soon as she changes, something's like off in the world when she goes through her change, that it actually affects the entire world in the sense of all the male wolves that haven't actually been mated all of a sudden are very attracted to her, and they're willing to essentially unalive one another in order to get to her, which obviously is a big problem. That's kind of a big threat, because you can take out entire clans or packs by doing that, because all of a sudden your men are just going to be fighting each other. It's just all out civil war. So she ends up getting exiled, and that's basically where I left off. So it sounds like because of her getting exiled, that's going to make her a little bit more hardened and roughened instead of being this really innocent, sweet girl that we meet in the beginning. And I think there's going to be another pack that comes into play where the male leader, the alpha, is going to want to off her, because her existence is still causing problems with all the male wolves in the entire world. So I think that's basically the storyline. You can go check the synopsis if you want to see. The premise actually seems really cool. The writing style just wasn't for me. I think it needed some more finessing, some simplification in areas, and then it could actually be super sick for my liking. Okay? But that was that one. The third one that I DNF'd was actually Wicked Court, which this one actually was not poorly written. It was actually enticing. The engagement is totally there. I can tell it's going to be smut, just so you guys know. It's definitely going to be a reverse harem, and it's definitely a bully romance, which isn't my jam. But that's not the reason that I DNF'd it. I personally, it's the young adult, new adult thing. It's not technically young adult. It is new adult, but they're in college. I'm getting ahead of myself. The premise. All right, which technically, again, I did not go back and read the synopsis because I didn't care to. But what I gathered is we have a world, magic exists, witches exist, secret societies exist. And there's basically a society that sounds like they're more on the evil side and is made up of a bunch of men. And it's almost like the Illuminati. That's the vibe that I kind of got, right? But their home base and the people that make up the society is basically frat boys. I guess that's their cover. But I couldn't get behind it. It's junior and senior men in a college, basically being this secret society that like runs the world and does all this crazy stuff. And I'm just like, what? We have guys doing like keg stands, okay? When I think of frat boys, that's not in the book, but it very well could be, okay? Because they were frat boys. But that's all I'm thinking. And then we're supposed to be like, yeah, no, these are like super serious dudes. They're like wizards and they can take over the world with their evilness. Meanwhile, they're doing cake stands. So I just I couldn't take it seriously. But like I said, the writing was there. The engagement's there. I'm sure the storyline is there. It seemed like the plot is like we have this secret society who is threatened by a certain clan of witches. But I guess the modern day witch doesn't actually know she's a witch. I'm not entirely sure. I'm guessing because I didn't get that far to know if she is a witch. But it's an assumption. And she's like Miss Goody Two-Shoes in college. And these frat boys are like your classic frat boys where they just like, they think they're hot stuff. And they kind of like rule the college campus in more of like a cool way, And she's meanwhile just like super popular and smart and nice and all that stuff. And they want to destroy her. But I think they need to destroy her for that ruby-looking thing that's on the cover. So that's the plot, I think. Again, go check the synopsis yourself because I didn't technically read it. But I just couldn't get behind the frat boys. But the rest of it was cool, so you might be into it. Take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. That's what I'm getting at here. So anyways, those were the 3 books that I DNF'd. As far as the 2 books that I did read, I need a good book this month, man. Jesus. But the 2 books that I did read, the first one is one that I chose, again in that TBR video. It's the Jane one. This is the one that's kind of mediocre, So it was the best of the bunch. But I'm kind of embarrassed that I thought that this was Tarzan. There would have been green on the cover if it was Tarzan, dude. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I got too excited. But it's not Tarzan. It's supposedly supposed to be kind of like a Pirates of the Caribbean reimagining. I think it's a Pirates of the Caribbean meets Game of Thrones. I did go back to read the synopsis later. And I don't know. There's a scene that makes me feel like Pirates of the Caribbean, almost like Calypso vibes. But other than that, you're not dealing with pirates. There's mention of them, so maybe they'll come up more in the second book, because apparently it's a duology. But otherwise, you're not dealing with pirates. So I don't know why it said that. But the whole world of this is actually pretty neat. Basically, we kind of have this government that runs a hefty part of the land and the sea here, and they're kind of more tyrannical, it sounds like. They're very like gruff, brutal men that kind of make up this council. I think they mentioned them as kings, but there is not really like a title of king. It's more of like a council sort of situation, and they're ruthless. People are terrified of them. You go by whatever they say, whatever law they put down, you abide by. And there's this chick who, when she was really young, when she was 13, her father basically sent her off on her own just for safety reasons, because he was a part of this council. He sends her off because she's somehow a threat to this council. So she's been living her life alone and feeling like she's not loved, and like her dad would come back, but he never has. And she's also very gruff. Honestly, both of our main characters are morally gray. That's for sure. Both are very brutal, but she's very strong, and she's willing to get into fights, and she stands up for what she believes in and who she cares about. And the council somehow gets word of her existence and her whereabouts, so they send one of their guys to go get her. And she's going to basically go on this journey of trying to get away from him. He's going to catch her. She tries to escape, all that sort of jazz. And they're going to have an enemies to lovers sort of situation. But both of them have goals that they can kind of sync up on and work together to achieve both of them. So they start to kind of partner up. So you're going to have banter. It's not really like cutesy banter, but it's almost more, it's enemies to lovers banter. Okay, you're going to see it start to grow, but there is that definitive attraction right away. It's spicy, but I don't think really a ton. I wouldn't call it smutty. It's more just spicy. But yeah, that's kind of the premise of everything. It does have trigger warnings. There is going to be some blood. There is going to be some torture. There's going to be some scenes that you're going to see. So check your trigger warnings. But the world itself was cool. The beginning and the end, I felt were just kind of like, Like by the end of it, I was just kind of getting tired of it. The beginning felt slow. The middle was where the juicy bit was, which is surprising. Normally the middle is where authors have a hard time. So I don't think I'm going to move on to book 2, but it is what it is. It might be one that you want to give a shot, you know? For me, it's like a 3.5 star. That's where I'm going to leave it. Moving on. The next one I'm kind of angry about because it's my pick for our second round of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Book, which also, by the way, quick interjection here. Ladies, if you haven't read the book yet for my Sisterhood book, skip to the next chapter, okay? Okay. It's this one. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. The new cover is stunning, but I have the old cover. But this book, I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew there was fae and trials and things like that. Here's what I'm going to say. It's basically ACOTAR, but much more grittier, much darker. Definitely trigger warnings. Check those out. This book's not written poorly. However, this is what I'm going to say. The beginning, I have lots of issues with the beginning. Well, we're going to go over it. The first thing is it's really long in the tooth. There is just like this whole setup of like her background and like what she does and how she's so intelligent, and it takes forever. Like honestly, I get it. She's a scientist. She knows to look for the devil in the details. She's very intelligent. She's smart. Okay, I get it. You don't need to beat me over the head with it. I honestly felt like there was a lot of times where the author, either she herself is a biologist or she did a lot of research, which both things are great, by the way. But it kind of felt like she was showing that off, so it was just too much, you know? But the whole idea is we have a human girl who's a scientist, very smart, like I said, and then she's looking for these mushrooms because she's trying to attract these moths and increase the population. But in doing so, she basically falls through a portal and ends up in a fae world. The fae prince sees her, thinks she's an assassin, and immediately is just like, we gotta unalive this chick. And 80% of the book is gonna be him attempting to do that in brutal manners, which I will give it this. I liked the gory bits. Like, there was some pretty freaking gory stuff that was cool. Felt very fantasy, felt very fairy tale sort of gore, which I loved. That was cool. But this is one of those situations where you have an enemies to lovers, where you do not have an ooey gooey male main character, all right? He very much is trying to unalive her, and brutally, okay? So that's hard for me to take. I don't like that. I like dark romance, but I still want an ooey gooey hero. That's my needs, I guess you can say. But it's just going to be a lot of painful things to have to read, I'll say. And then the last 20% is when we have the switcheroo. But I kind of felt like the switcheroo was very sudden, when all of a sudden he's like, oh no, I can't live without her. I need her. I don't know. I didn't feel the love. I didn't feel the romance. It just felt like it was happening on the page. And then at the end, where we have the freaking like big plot twist, which this was the reason why I picked this book, on like TikTok and Reels and all that jazz. People were either crying because of something that happens in the book that I'm assuming I know what they cried at. Personally, it didn't move me. And then or basically they cried, or they were freaking out about the plot twist. I'm sorry, but no, I'm so sorry. I'm angry about it. I won't lie. But what happened at the end, I literally like closed the book and I just went, what? No. Because there's certain things that said at the end where I'm like, that directly contradicts what you said at the beginning. Told you I had issues with the beginning. That directly contradicts this. And I was in your head. I was in your POV. So this isn't a situation where you were lying in dialogue and the reader just makes an assumption. You were thinking this. You told me this. This does not line up. And I think the idea that the author was going for was you have this plot twist at the end, and that there should have been sprinklings in the beginning that could kind of support this. I didn't see the sprinklings. The sprinklings to me, I was like, no, that's a contradiction. So I just got really frustrated by the end. There was other things that I got frustrated by, which everyone else who's reading it is going to see all my little annotations that I put where I was like, wait, hold on. I thought this was your thing. What? It was a lot of that. So I just got angry. And then I think I was double upset because I'm like, man, this is my book and I wanted it to be good and it wasn't. So I don't know. It really bummed me out, man. But it is definitely ACOTAR, which you guys already know my feeling about ACOTAR. So this one didn't work for me. Those are the books I read. So it is what it is. That's what I just have to live with. But hopefully May's going to be better, especially with the historical romance readathon. So the last two ones that I read, they're little smutty novellas for weird ass romance. April and I had actually a blast with this. These were great. I actually highly recommend. I'll leave a link down below. All of our like little live streams that we do is actually over on April's channel, but I'll leave a link to this one down below. Highly recommend you go check out like the stuff we're talking about, especially in the second book, the Hotdog one. There's some great quotes in there, and I don't remember them right now, so I recommend you check them out because we're just dying over it. But the two that we read is this Rake one and then the Hotdog one. So starting off, this Rake bad boy, okay? This one, it wasn't bad, but honestly, like we could have pushed it. It almost felt more serious than comedic, if you will. Like there's obviously a touch of comedy because she's boinking a rake. Okay, but the whole premise behind it is we have like this college girl who needs help getting the leaves raked up because they're coming tomorrow. The trash guys are coming tomorrow and she needs to get them in a bag. So she calls over her fuck buddy. He comes on in and they basically, they shebang a bunch. And she's like, I really need to do this. And he goes and takes a shower. She pops out to the garage to grab her rake to rake up her leaves. But this rake is on the ground, and it turns out he's sentient because he actually was a man that somehow was cursed to now be a rake. And he's been laying on the ground, and he could hear her while she was shebanging the other dude, and he basically heard her moans and was like, ooh, I love this woman. I think I need to be with her. She's so beautiful, even though I can't see her. And then when she comes out, they basically kind of communicate telepathically. And he's like, I think we need to have a Princess and the Frog sort of moment, and maybe we shebang. And she's like, I could go for that. Like, this sounds a little weird. I think if, my friend comes out and he sees me shebanging a rake, he's probably going to judge me, but I'm feeling kind of attracted to you right now. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that like wood spine. I don't know. We proceed into the shebanging. And just to like clarification, let's go over physiology really quick. The rake here, this top part, the claw, that's his head. There's no eyeballs. I just want to say that. There's no eyeballs, there's no hands, there's no like little mini rake as his Johnson. Nothing. It's a rake. But this is his head, this is his feet. Okay, first off, his head gets used to kind of caress her breasts, so there's probably scratch marks. But then when they shebang, they use his feet. So that's interesting. I guess that's kind of comedic. But it talked about like how he can watch her while she's shebanging his feet. And I'm like, how? Wouldn't your head like be pointed towards the wall behind you? How can you see her? I don't know. It was weird. The physiology wasn't perfect. Okay, that's all I'm saying. But they shebang. The fuck boy comes out. He sees everything. And then he's kind of like, okay, I'm down too. And then they have a three-way shebang with a rake. And then somehow, it's a year later. Or no, sorry. Somehow it's the next day. And the rake like wakes up and he's in his human form. And he's like, oh no, I fell in love with this woman and she broke my curse of being a rake. I need to find her. I need to be with her. And then it jumps to a year later and they're all in bed together. Happily ever after. HEA. All right. So that was the rake one. I don't know. 3. I don't even know if it's 3 stars. It wasn't comedic enough. We could have pushed it. I think we could have done more with like some leaves and some weird rake action. But, you know, you get what you get. She did go for the feet, so. But the next one, the hot dog bad mama jamma. So this one, it was pretty freaking great. I'm not going to lie. But the whole premise is we have a chick who really loves hot dogs. And there's this wiener salesman that lives right outside of her apartment. And it's like the stereotypical dude where it's like a greasy, disgusting looking food cart. And it's like this guy, pimply. He's got a big belly. Half of it's showing. It's a stereotypical, like, gross sort of food cart sort of dude. But he has the best wieners, apparently. And he loves to stare at her boobs. Okay? So he makes her uncomfortable. But she loves his wieners. So she goes and she gets one, comes home, for whatever reason, can't remember. She leaves the hot dog on the counter and goes and takes a shower. When she comes out, all of a sudden, a hot dog is just floating there. And it's like normal size hot dog, okay? Like my hand. Imagine a hot dog like this just floating on the counter, okay? Weird. And he does have condiments. He has like ketchup and mayo and then the wiener, which personally, I'm like, ew. We need like some mustard, some relish, some onion, screw the mayo, but whatever. That's beside the point. But we have a hot dog. Again, no eyes, no hands, just a floating freaking hot dog. But again, we have the telepathy powers. So they're communicating each other through the mind. And it turns out that there was some aliens that needed to come to Earth and they need to impregnate the world because they need their offspring and blah, blah, blah. So they crashed down and they ended up like putting themselves into the hot dog cart. So these are alien hot dogs. That's basically what I'm getting at here. So he's just floating there and he's kind of like, hello, Earthling, I need to shebang you. And she's like, oh my God, I love wieners. Like, do I do this or do I not do it? I'm not sure. And he's like, let's do it, baby. And they ended up shebanging. But it's like weird because it's a hot dog and he's like smothering himself and like smearing condiments and he's like over the breastises and he's greasy. Okay, remember disgusting food cart. So he's leaving like grease marks and like grease is like dripping down her body. Gross. And like you can imagine like when he stuffs himself into her buns, okay, which he does have a bun, but when he stuffs himself into her buns, grease is coming out of there. Gross. But he just like dives in. He does his bad mama jamma. She's having like the best O of her life. She really loves the wieners now, if you know what I'm saying. Okay? Really, really loves them. And then when he has his explosion, it's mayonnaise. I was wondering what it was going to be. I honestly thought it was going to be grease, which I think I prefer the mayo over the grease, but I don't know. It's all gross. But he pops on out and he's like, I have delivered my seed and I need to get out of here. And she's kind of like, why don't we stay and cuddle and maybe we can be boyfriend, girlfriend. And he basically is like, deuces, and flies on out of there. as a little hot dog dude. And it makes it sound like he doesn't have good control over flying. So it's just kind of like this hot dog that's like jerkily flying, you know? He's not exactly smooth, okay? Doesn't sound like a regular Casanova, but she's really bummed. She's sad. And, you know, she goes to work. She goes through her stuff. She can't bring herself to have another hot dog from the hot dog cart. And she begins to get sick. You know where this is going. She begins to get sick. She's puking up ketchup. I can't imagine that. But she's puking up ketchup, and eventually she gets to a very painful day where her stomach just really hurts. So she goes to the toilet, and she's like sweating balls, and she's crying because she's in so much pain. And then she hears a kerplunk. And she looks down, and there's a package of wieners, okay? Fully like in the plastic. Personally, I thought we were gonna go with the mini weenies. Like, I don't know if you guys ever had to make like an earthquake kit when you were a kid and you take it to school and it's like the little can of like mini weenies. Baby wieners, okay? That's what I thought we were gonna have. But no, we had a full-fledged package with the plastic and all. Oscar Mayer, babe. That's basically what it was. What she does with it basically ended there. But what she does with it, I don't know. Is she gonna eat them? Are they sentient? Can she hear them crying? Is she gonna take care of them like these weird alien hot dog dudes? I don't know. You know what? Oh, I just had a weird thought. Technically, it's her and that alien weenie dude. Shouldn't this been like a hot dog person combo? Like maybe we had baby arms and legs on just like a wiener? That's horrifying. That's really horrifying. I don't like where my brain goes sometimes. Anyways, that was the hot dog book. I hope you liked it. It was actually a really fun read. Again, highly recommend that you guys go watch the video, jump to the part where we're discussing the weenie book, because there was some quotes, man. They're just grade A, prime, great quotes. But anyways, that's it. I hope y'all like that. I will see you guys next week. I don't know what I'm really reading yet. I did do my little TBR for the historical romance video. Maybe I'll attach that if you're interested in that. But we have the readathon coming up, I think in like a week. Actually, wait, no. It's probably coming out like a day or two after this one. It's the 17th. Why don't I just say that? But anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.